Hey, what's up, y'all? So last time I told you guys that I was gonna do a video going in a completely different direction. If you've seen the other videos, the last video we ended off with was the beautiful ugly truth, which is where I spoke on, being truthful and why it's important for me to be so honest and upfront. And again, I told you guys that we were going to go in a different direction. If you notice, I'm sitting here with a guest. You want to introduce yourself? Yay or nay? This is my sister. Might be a little nervous. Whatever. But
Hi, everybody.
But yeah. So there's a situation that I went through, we went through at a very young age that I kind of want to speak on. And again, this is kind of like a premise to episode 5. So things that we speak on here, you will hear again. You're just going to hear different recollections of it. You're going to hear different viewpoints on it. Because I think this is important to get this part of it out too. So we'll just get started on that. And this one touches on domestic abuse as well. So, with that said, it might touch some people, might not. But at the end, I'll kind of tie it all in. So we're just gonna start. Katrina, let me get these questions up for you. I will let you know, and for any guests going forward that I may have, I just want to let you know that we're going to try to keep everyone anonymous, no matter who we may be talking about. We're going to try to not put their names out there for a bunch of reasons, but if it's in the past or it's something that happened, we're going to try to respect whoever we're speaking on, and if possible, just keep their names out of it, them and their families or whatever. And obviously, with this being a truthfully speaking channel, be honest. Whatever the case is, if you get to a point where something bothers you and you want me to turn the camera off, I can turn it off. We can bridge it later. So I just want you to be as honest as possible, and say what you feel. Especially since, again, we know what the topic is. So we're going to get started. And before we start, guys, I'm going to let you know this story touches on our mother as well as her ex-husband at the time. I think age-wise, you remember how old we were when all this happened? Because we were living in Grand Gardens, right?
Right, so whenever I was in 5th grade.
I was in 3rd. So I want to say I'm going to say 1995. Could be completely wrong on that, but this happened when we were fairly young. And before I ask you about that specific time, I do want to know, because I don't think I ever asked you this, like, what made you not like him from the gate? And the reason I'm asking that is because from what I remember, even when we were living in West Philly, it seemed like you never cared for him. I know obviously mom had to like him enough to marry him, and I took a liking to him as well, but it seemed like for whatever reason you didn't care for him. Like, is there a reason? Did you see something? Did you notice something that kind of like turned you off, or what?
I don't know, I just feel like it was just something about him. I think I couldn't really put my finger on it, but it was something about him that I didn't like. But also, I really didn't care for a lot of males or boyfriends, that mom had that wasn't dead. Like, I still was stuck in the mind frame, like, I want our mom and our dad to be together. So I think that probably had a lot to do with it. But then, it's his attitude shown itself later down, the line. Then it gave me valid reason not to like him.
Okay, so it wasn't just basically almost completely just for the fact that you kind of were tied onto the dad and mom family situation.
In the beginning.
Okay. I think I liked him so much because of almost the exact opposite, to where I kind of felt that he would fill that void. For me, being a boy growing up or whatever, you do notice the differences in only having like a female raising you. So, when my father wasn't around, I kind of felt like, all right, well, nobody's here to kind of be on my side in a sense. I kind of felt like you had your side, you being a female and mom, kind of felt like y'all had your side, and I kind of felt like that's something I was missing or I didn't have. So when he came around or whatever, and anybody else, truthfully, like she had other boyfriends, I kind of took a liking to him because of that, like just off of the fact that, okay, now I have someone who can kind of like be on my side and raise me. Not that, mom ever treated me any differently than you, but it just was the point of having someone that I can kind of look up to. in a sense, and kind of like, all right, cool, this will be my father and things like that. I even remember like dumb stuff like watching The Lion King, and me and him are watching The Lion King, and like the part where I think Simba says something like, I think it's Simba. He says something like, you're my dad, right, or whatever, and Mufasa's like, yeah. He's like, you're gonna always be my, you're gonna always be here or something or whatever. That whole little dialogue between Simba and his father, whatever. I remember me and him saying those lines when we were at Grand Gardens one day, like just watching that, whatever. So that's what I really kind of took to. I kind of took to that thought of, him just being the father that I never had in a sense, even at that young age. But going forward, what do you remember, or do you remember anything? Because I know, again, we were really young, but if anything, what do you remember about the day that he actually hit on her or abused her, if anything? Like going from, the wake up on.
I just remember us being in a room and hearing like a lot of screaming and them yelling back and forth or something like that. And then I want to say I think I heard a noise. Like you said, it'd been so long ago, and I probably in my mind tried to block it out, so I really can't remember every little detail. But I just remember like a lot of commotion, and I think I remember us coming out into the like the living room kitchen area where they were, and I guess like crying. I believe I was crying. I just was like in shock and like wondering what was going on. I can't remember what anybody was saying to us, now that we were out there in the situation. I just can't even remember any of that, but I just remember feeling like terrified almost, like, and scared and wondering why would somebody hurt my mom, like.
Pretty much the same. I do remember, obviously we were asleep. I don't know why I feel like it's a Tuesday, but I feel like it happened on a Tuesday. I know we were asleep. I know we had to go to school, and obviously they would be woke before us, getting ready for them to go to work. They worked at the same job, y'all, so they kind of would get ready together and everything because they had to be out the door around the same time. So I remember, like you said, I remember waking up to it, a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, maybe some banging around of some sort to actually wake us up. I remember waking up in a terrified feeling. For one, even though we've heard Mom cry before, what was terrifying for me at that age was I never heard my mom in that much distress or whatever. Like, it kind of, from the sound of it, it kind of felt like this was over just crying. I think I've seen her cry, over like relatives and things like that. But just to hear her in so much distress, and also, for me, not being able to help. I do remember going out there. I think at the time he might have like been pulling her hair or something like that, like some real corny move or whatever. But he was like pulling on her hair or something like that. And I remember him being, really, really angry and upset, and her just kind of being like really, really distraught or like in distress or whatever, to a point where if somebody could help her, you could obviously tell that she needed it at that time. But just from that, just feeling like I can't help my mom at this point in time. Like, obviously she's always helped us, she's raised us, always been there for us. And as a boy, I don't know if it's this way for you, but as a male, even at a young age, you kind of feel like you have to protect your mom. That's where that comes from. It's almost like instilled in us as soon as we're born. You know what I mean? So even with your son, fairly early on, they're going to develop that. If he doesn't already have it now, chances are he does. We kind of develop like a sense of, we have to protect you. Even if the father isn't alive, we gain that sense of protection and being able to protect someone. So especially our mother. So, in that point in time, that's all I wanted to do, is to protect her. And I know that I couldn't or whatever. Like, I knew, obviously he was way bigger than I was in third grade. But, I remember feeling like really, really bad, more so because she was in distress and I couldn't help her. And just having that, again, that gene of wanting to protect my mom. Just a sidebar, I remember, I think you were at school at the time, and we were really, really young. We was in West Philly, and I think Mom, we might have been going like to the welfare office or something, and we standing at the bus stop, me and Mom, and while we're waiting for the bus or whatever, some crackhead or something like that, he runs up on Mom, and he snatches her earrings out of her hair and runs down the street, like runs down the street or whatever. And you know, even at like, 'cause you could tell like it rattled her, like so she wasn't like crying or anything, but you can tell like somebody just snatched your earrings and book or whatever, like it rattled her or startled her or whatever. And I just remember, you know, kind of looking up at her, and I don't even know, I had to be super young. I wasn't even in school at the time. I remember saying to her, and she even confirmed that I said to her, like, don't worry, Mom, you know, I'll get you some more earrings or whatever. And that kind of came from that protecting thing, like, don't worry, you know, I got you, I'll get you some more earrings or whatever. And not even really probably knowing what I was saying at the time, but I just knew the action of him taking them. I'm going to get them back, even though I can't get the ones that he took or whatever. So, you know, again, that's something that we developed at such a young age or whatever. So to see that again, it definitely, it bothered me very deep down, and I carried that for a long time. You know, even growing up, one of the things that I wish the most is that, first of all, that he never put his hands on her, but if he did, I was of age to the point where that wouldn't have went down for very long, where somebody would have died. You know what I mean? Because that's how I feel now. Like that, somebody dies this time. So, you know, just growing up with that sense of not being able to protect someone who protected you their whole life, really, really bothered me. Do you remember anything else about that day, like even after that or no?
I just remember like after that, like I already disliked him, like I said, for my reasons before or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of like validated everything, and it made me start hating him. And that's not really a nice feeling for somebody in 5th grade,
Right.
but all like that's exactly what I felt was hate, and I know that's what I felt because after that, from that day forward, like I couldn't stand him. Like even to look at him, I would just like look at him with hate in my eyes, and I know he felt it, and I would stare at him, and I do remember stuff like that. Like I would stare at him if he told me something to do or anything like that. Like I almost felt like I was bigger, so I can do
Right,
something to
right.
him. I do remember that part.
Yeah, I think like even I remember like segments of that day specifically after it happened, because weird part is after he did what he did to our mom or whatever, he went to work almost as if nothing happened. Yeah, it was like, all right, let me beat her up and let me go do my regular job or whatever. So I just remember like small, and that's why I'm saying I want to say it's 1995, because I remember small things like you know, her after kind of like gathering herself or whatever. She took us to Penn's Landing. Like we hopped on the bus or whatever, all that, and we ended up going down Penn's Landing or whatever. And you know, you can kind of all see that she was distraught the whole day. You know, you can see that something was on her mind or whatever. But you know, her just kind of like wanting to be away from the household at that point in time. Like, so we went to Penn's Landing, I remember. And the reason again I'm saying 1995 is because of, you know, as a kid, you remember the dumb stuff too, like going to McDonald's at Frankfurt. For everybody who's been to Frankfurt and Philly, you know the McDonald's. I don't know if it's still there, but you know the McDonald's. You know the McDonald's then. You know, I remember going to McDonald's or whatever, and Mom buying us Happy Meals or whatever. And at the time, Power Rangers just released their first movie or whatever. First movie came out or whatever, and McDonald's was selling the action figures or whatever that didn't come in the Happy Meal, but you can buy them like extra or whatever. And I remember her buying me one, and that just is like just part of the memory I didn't block out or whatever. So I think it was 1995, because that's when that movie came out.
Showing her
age. But also what I remember about it as well, at this time Grandma lived in Grand Gardens, right, with us in the apartment complex.
Yeah, at that point I think she did move up there.
Yeah, the reason I'm saying that is because when we finally got back, like we spent the whole day like at Penn's Landing in West Philly and everything else, but almost like a whole work day there. But I remember on the way back, we're walking from the boulevard to the apartment complex, and Mom had on sunglasses, like the Mary J. Blige Ain't Gonna Cry Jones, like she had the cover and everything. I don't even remember if she had a black eye or not. I just remember her having like glasses on or whatever, and
I think she might.
Okay, and I remember like, because Grandma had a car. I remember like Grandma kind of like seeing us and or meeting us at some point as we're like, I guess, walking to the complex, and Mom saying to us, well, don't say anything, or don't, I don't even know if you remember this part, but she said something like, don't don't say anything or don't say what happened, whatever the case is. And, you know, they had like a small interaction where we're like, oh, you know, kind of like what you're doing or where you're going, this, that, and the third. And, you know, I didn't say anything. I don't think you said anything either, whatever. But I just remember that part as well. Going forward, I really don't remember how I necessarily felt. I think I might have been too young to actually process it, in the sense that even though it happened, and I do remember, you know, being scared and fearful and everything else, I think I kind of pushed it away as soon as they were okay. Even though obviously they weren't okay after that fact, I kind of, like when they seemed to be back together in the sense of still, you know, moving forward, I think I kind of pushed it that same way to say, all right, well, you know, that'll never happen again or whatever. And I kind of just moved forward in that way. Question I'm asking you is, do you know if that did ever happen again? Like, are you aware of that ever happening, or
You
was
know
that the
what?
whole
I
time?
can't remember it happening again, and maybe we just never seen it again. That time just sticks out to me, but I don't remember after that if it ever happened again. I think I remember arguments, you know, stuff like that, but I don't
Right,
remember like physical abuse anymore. Like I said, that I've seen. Not to say it didn't happen anymore.
right, yeah. We've witnessed the verbal abuse too, which is to me just as big as a deal. It damages your brain, you know what I mean? And we did witness things like that, to where, you know, he would belittle her and say stuff like that. But that was the only time I think we've actually witnessed, you know, physicality, or them going in that way or whatever. So you know, I'll just ask you, like, how did that affect you going